Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be a little different than my normal Scooby-Doo videos. Today I'm going to be talking about movies. Over the past month, I've seen a decent amount of movies, not as much as I would say I usually see, and I don't think that they're as high quality as the ones that I usually see. But I decided that I'd try to take a look at my first time watches of the month and talk about my favorites. So to keep the video not too long, I'm only going to talk about my top 3 movies and give a rating for them of the month of May 2021. But I'll mention a few of the other ones that I saw that I enjoyed but didn't quite make the top 3. So as far as new movies went, I saw The Mitchells vs. the Machines, which was an enjoyable time for sure. I enjoyed the popular zombie movie 28 Days Later, and I was also pleasantly surprised by Adventureland. However, I can only talk about 3 movies in this video. Number 3 is A Silent Voice. So I watched this movie on Netflix. This is Netflix Canada though, so it might not be on Netflix's from other countries. This movie is an anime movie about a boy who mercilessly bullies a deaf girl who's new to his school. But when he grows older, he recognizes the harm he's caused and decides to try to make things right. Usually, I'm not a big fan of anime related content. I can't really say why. It's sort of, it feels like it has its own style that I don't necessarily agree with. But this one was a pleasant surprise. You really feel for Shoko at the beginning of the movie when she's bullied. It's the sort of movie that makes you just want to be a good person because it makes you reflect on the little hurtful things that you may say that don't feel like they have much of an impact and you forget about them. But they do add up and it makes you want to become a better person. But as for its effect on the movie's characters, I thought it was really interesting that just because Shoya has accepted that what he's done was not okay and he's repented, the problems aren't magically solved that his bullying created. The characters in the movie are flawed and feel realistic. They feel relatable, which again felt like a bit of a departure to most anime stuff that I've seen. So I really appreciated that about it. The only reason why it wouldn't make it higher, I rated it a 4 out of 5. I felt like I could have resonated with it more. Not necessarily any distinct thing that I can think about, just felt like a pretty solid 4 out of 5 movie for me. Now, my second favorite movie for the month was Ghost Dog: The Way of the Samurai. I recently got the Criterion Collection Blu-ray of this movie, and I had blind bought it because I've liked the director Jim Jarmusch's some of his other films that I've seen, so I decided to blind buy it, and sure enough, it turned out to be definitely an interesting experience that I'm glad that I bought this Blu-ray. Now, this is an interesting movie about a professional hitman that is hired by these old mafia men. But what's interesting about this assassin is that he is very much dedicated to the old way of the samurai, and he reads these books on ancient Japan and how things were back then. He takes those teachings into his life. And when things go wrong with the mafia, which with his latest hit, and the mafia decide that they want him killed, he's got to fight back. Based off of the plot, it feels not like a completely unique movie, but it really is. It has so much style to it, so much flair, that I think it definitely benefits from a rewatch. There's a lot of depth to the lessons learned in the movie. Its focus on the destruction of the past ways of life is a very interesting topic and one that I've been thinking about a lot recently with the whole TikTok culture and everything that I don't really like that much. But in the end, it doesn't really matter what I think because it's going to happen anyways, and the old ways are going to die and disappear because people talk about nostalgia, talk about the good old days, but those days, no matter how much you try to recreate them, they're not going to come back the same way that you remember them. And so I think that's a really interesting way to tackle that subject that I wish that I had resonated more with me because I feel like it should. But I hope that on rewatches that I do enjoy it even more, and hopefully it starts to develop into a movie that I can rate even higher. It's another interesting aspect of the movie is that it's pretty funny despite being a movie that is pretty dark at times, and it's about an assassin. The parts in between the dark points are actually very lighthearted, where he meets a young girl that starts to appreciate the same ideologies that he has, and also he has a friend that just they can't understand each other. They speak different languages, and there's some funny moments there to be had as well. Overall, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. Definitely would recommend it. And for my favorite movie of the month, we have The Untouchables. So I watched this movie on Netflix at the beginning of May. It's a French film about an ex-convict who becomes a caretaker for a wealthy quadriplegic man. The movie focuses on the friendship between the two men, as the ex-convict named Driss teaches the quadriplegic man named Philippe to let loose a little and to enjoy life more, despite his physical limitations. It's one of those movies it feels pretty standard, it's easy to enjoy. What really makes this movie stand out, though, is the main character, the ex-convict Driss, played by Omar Sy. He is one of the most likable characters I've seen in a film. He's really charismatic, he's very funny, and really brings so much life to the film. Essentially basically made the entire movie for me, made it my #1 pick for the month. But it feels like there is a distinct lack of conflict in the movie. It's interesting because it does feel like a standard Hollywood movie, and it was eventually made into a movie with Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart playing the main characters. But the lack of conflict in this movie, in one sense, it's good because it doesn't follow that traditional Hollywood structure where at the end everything goes wrong and suddenly it looks like things aren't going to work out, and then the main character manages to pull everything together at the end and it's a happy ending. Instead, it feels different than that, which I'm sure in part is because of the foreign nature of this film. It doesn't necessarily adhere to that Hollywood structure, but although it's nice that it's different, it doesn't replace it with anything. But regardless, it's a really enjoyable watch. If you happen to have it on your Netflix, again, it's on Canadian Netflix, I would definitely recommend it. I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Thanks for watching the video. I think I'm going to see if the feedback's good. I think I'll see if I can try to make this a regular series where I talk about my favorite movies of each month. So, yes, have a great day.